Johnny Depp's life has long been a mesmerizing paradox, a man whose fame, charm, and talent have made him a household name. And yet, beneath the glitz of Hollywood exists a fragile soul haunted by an almost unbearable past. We know him for the characters he's played, from the scissor-handed loner to the swashbuckling pirate. But who is Johnny Depp when the cameras stop rolling, when the lights fade and the applause dies down? The truth is more heartbreaking, complex, and human than most fans ever imagined. Born in Owensboro, Kentucky in 1963, Johnny's early years were marked not by comfort or privilege, but by chaos and emotional volatility. He described his childhood bluntly, even chillingly, as a horror show. His mother, Betty Sue Palmer, was reportedly a volatile and abusive figure. According to Depp, she hurled objects, insults, and harsh punishments like they were weapons of war. His father, John Christopher Depp, eventually abandoned the family when Johnny was just 15 years old, leaving a vacuum of stability that would define much of his adult emotional experience. Johnny often recalled waking up each day, not with the anticipation of youthful adventures, but with the dread of what kind of pain might be inflicted next. That absence of safety during formative years left deep scars. His first escape came through music. Johnny found solace in his guitar, playing in garage bands, using each strum to drown out the noise of his fractured home. He dropped out of school, at 16, already far removed from a traditional teenage experience. Drugs and alcohol weren't merely rebellious teenage indulgences, they were, in his words, the tools of survival. A numbing agent for the emotional injuries he carried inside. He said he tried every kind of drug by the age of 14, not to party, but to dull the overwhelming sense of fear, sadness, and displacement. His rise to fame happened almost by accident. A trip to Los Angeles to help a friend ended up landing him an acting gig. Before long, Johnny was cast in 21 Jump Street, a television role that turned him into a teen idol. But fame didn't sit well with him. The adoration felt hollow, disconnected from the real Johnny, the kid from Kentucky still nursing invisible wounds. As his celebrity grew, so did his discomfort with it. He began to retreat behind eccentric roles, using his characters as shields, as safe spaces where he could express pain without exposing himself. As he moved from Crybaby to Edward Scissorhands to Donnie Brasco, audiences applauded his versatility and depth. But they didn't realize that he was pouring real anguish into those roles. Edward Scissorhands, in particular, was a character Johnny felt mirrored his own sense of isolation and misunderstood nature. The pale, quiet, artistic outsider with blades for hands struck a chord with him, not because it was make-believe, but because it was eerily reflective of how he often felt in real life. Behind the scenes, however, the cracks were growing. By the time Pirates of the Caribbean turned him into a global sensation and bankable superstar, Johnny was already battling demons that were getting harder to suppress. Despite the public image of a quirky, lovable oddball, privately, he was struggling with addiction. During court testimonies years later, he revealed he'd been using opiates, benzodiazepines, alcohol, and other substances. He wasn't doing it for fun. He was trying to silence the trauma that never left him. He admitted he would often drink himself to sleep while filming Pirates. This wasn't a man reveling in the spoils of stardom. It was someone desperately trying to survive each day. Things took a dramatic and devastating turn when he met actress Amber Heard. Their relationship began with passion, but would end in one of the most controversial and public legal battles in Hollywood history. At first, they appeared to be the glamorous, unconventional power couple, rebellious, stylish, madly in love. But soon, their private disputes spilled into the public domain. Amber accused Johnny of physical abuse. He denied the claims and countersued for defamation. The world watched, dissected, and judged. Tabloids printed half-truths and damning headlines. Studios turned their backs. Disney dropped him from the Pirates franchise. He became, in essence, a pariah. The court battles were grueling, not just legally, but emotionally. Intimate details of his life were exposed to the world. Texts, audio recordings, photos, and confessions that painted a painful portrait of a man unraveling. But what many didn't see was the stoic resilience he maintained throughout. He showed up to court day after day, wearing a suit, a calm expression, and yes, that smile. It wasn't joy. It was armor. It was a mask forged in childhood, refined in Hollywood, and necessary for survival. He wasn't performing for the cameras. He was defending what remained of his dignity. During this turbulent time, Johnny also suffered personal losses that would have broken anyone. Just days before his separation from Amber, his mother passed away. Betty Sue's death reopened old wounds and buried emotions. Despite the pain she caused him, she was still his mother, the woman he once tattooed on his arm to honor. He spiraled. He grieved. And all of this was happening as the world mocked him in headlines and memes. Johnny has also mourned the deaths of several close friends over the years. River Phoenix, who died of a drug overdose in 1993, was someone Johnny respected deeply. They shared artistic sensibilities and a distrust of Hollywood's corporate machine. Heath Ledger's passing in 2008 hit hard as well. Johnny even donated his earnings from the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, a film they had both worked on, to Heath's daughter. More recently, the loss of legendary guitarist Jeff Beck devastated him. They were close collaborators and friends, and Johnny described Beck as a brother. His death was another blow to a heart already worn thin. Amid all this loss, betrayal, and emotional devastation, Johnny found an unlikely lifeline: painting. Known for his creativity, he turned to visual art as a way of expressing what words couldn't. His paintings were deeply personal, often featuring the faces of people he admired: Hunter S. Thompson, Bob Dylan, Bob Marley, and Heath Ledger among them. His art revealed vulnerability in a new form. When he released a collection of portraits, fans saw something raw and truthful. It wasn't about making money, it was about healing. Johnny once said that art was the only thing I could turn to that didn't judge me. Painting became therapy. Each brushstroke was an exorcism of sorts, a release of pain that had no other outlet. And the fans? They responded. People who had only seen him as Captain Jack or Edward Scissorhands now saw the soul beneath. The portraits were haunting, emotional, sometimes defiant, just like the man himself. In more recent years, he has been working on his sobriety. Though he's admitted it's been a rocky path, he has stayed close to a tight-knit group of friends who've supported him without question. Notably, musicians and artists, people who value authenticity over appearances. The loyalty of those around him, from his legal team to his bandmates, speaks volumes about the kind of man he is when the cameras are off. He's also been reconnecting with his children, Lily Rose and Jack. Though he's spoken little about them publicly, those who know him say he's a devoted father. He once described his children as the only thing real in his life. And despite the turmoil, they've stood by him in quiet solidarity. Lily Rose, a rising actress in her own right, has carved her own path but has never publicly condemned her father. That silence in the age of cancel culture and social media uproar may speak louder than words. What's even more surprising is how Johnny has maintained his humor through all this. Friends describe him as someone who still cracks jokes, tells wild stories, and can quote obscure poetry on a whim. That smile, even now, persists. But it's no longer just armor. It's a symbol of survival. He has faced ridicule, betrayal, addiction, loss, and the death of his reputation. And yet, he is still here, still creating, still evolving. And yes, believe it or not, he did once try to buy a cannon. In true Johnny fashion, it was an eccentric, somewhat bizarre idea. But it made sense to him. He wanted to fire the ashes of his late friend Hunter S. Thompson into the sky. And he did. He spent $3 million to fulfill Hunter's last wish, launching his ashes from a cannon during a fireworks show. Critics called it excessive. But for Johnny, it was about loyalty, about honoring a friend in the most unforgettable way possible. Even with $650 million earned throughout his career, Depp has said he didn't care about money. He trusted the wrong people and ended up in deep financial trouble. Lavish spending, yes, but also betrayal by managers who mishandled his finances. In a bitter twist, he realized that the wealth he thought would insulate him from pain only led to new kinds of suffering. Through all of this, Johnny Depp has proven one thing: he is not a cautionary tale. He's a survivor. His story isn't neat or glamorous, it's messy, raw, and painful, but it's real. And in an industry built on illusion, that's rare. So now it's your turn. Have you ever smiled while silently falling apart? Have you ever used laughter to hide the ache inside? If so, you're not alone. Drop a comment. Your story might just help someone else feel seen. And if this story touched you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell for more deep dives into the real lives behind the headlines. Up next, Keanu Reeves, another Hollywood icon who turned tragedy into strength. You won't want to miss it. Thanks for sticking with us. And remember, behind every smile, there's a story worth telling.